Fiddle Dancer by Anne Patton and Wilfred Burton, illustrated by Sherry Farrell Rissette. It was way past bedtime on New Year's Eve, but Nolan's shoes were still tapping. The lively fiddle music gave him energy. He hopped from side to side, copying the other dancers. Nolan glanced up, and Mushoom winked from across the dance circle. Nolan tried even harder to get the step right. Then the tempo went faster. Mushoom moved to the middle to show off his fancy steps. The other dancers hooted and clapped. Mushoom's feet flashed high, then snapped the floor. The fringes on his sash bounced to the beat. When the music slowed, Mushoom was gasping for breath. "I'm too old for this," he puffed. Mushoom's friend yelled, "Hey, old Baptiste, better teach your grandson to take your place." Nolan felt his face turning red. He could never dance like Mushoom. When the fiddler stopped between tunes, Nolan squeezed Mushoom's hand. "I'm tired now." Mushoom nodded. "Go sleep on my parka." He ruffled Nolan's hair. "Soon you'll know the fancy steps, my boy." No chance, thought Nolan. As he wrapped himself in Mushoom's coat, he snuggled under a bench. Big feet danced past him, shuffling, tapping, and kicking. Huge feet wearing leather shoes or moccasins or just plain old socks, even a sock with a toe sticking out. As he fell asleep, Nolan felt the wooden floor bouncing to the beat of the dancers' feet. Nolan opened his eyes and sat up. This wasn't his bedroom. Then he remembered. He was visiting Mushoom for New Year's. Together they had gone to the community dance. Mushoom must have carried him home. The bedroom door squeaked as Nolan pushed it open. Mushoom was reading in his old willow rocking chair. "Good morning, my boy. I just woke up myself. All that dancing wore me out." "How did you learn to be such a good dancer, Mushoom?" asked Nolan. Mushoom chuckled. "Got dancing in my bones, Nushishim." "You know how the dancing got in my bones?" Nolan shook his head. "I'll tell you while I make us some bannock." Mushoom groaned as he stood up. "Oh, I'm stiff today. I'm getting old." He pushed more logs into the cast-iron stove. "You know, your grandma and I danced all night when we were young. She was the best jigger in the north and the most beautiful Métis girl, too." For a moment, Nolan felt an ache of sadness because Kukum had died last year. He missed her a lot. Mushoom got out a big bowl. He poured in a heap of flour and a shake of baking powder. After he cut in some lard, he added water and stirred. He dumped the dough on the table and kneaded it with his strong hands. Mushoom patted the dough down on a baking tray and poked it with a fork. "Did you know that Kukum was the best bannock maker in the north?" "Now you are, Mushoom," said Nolan. Mushoom slid the tray into the oven and then eased back into his rocker. "Tell me how dancing got in your bones," prompted Nolan. "Well, it started even before I was born. Whenever ma mère heard fiddle music, she drummed her fingers on her big belly. That beat vibrated inside her where I was curled up, waiting to be born. The jigging beat just soaked into my soft little baby bones. Here, I'll show you. Mooshum caught Nolan in his strong arms. Before Nolan could squirm away, Mooshum swept the boy onto his lap. He tapped a frisky rhythm on Nolan's tummy. Dum-diddly-diddly-dum. "Ooh, that tickles!" Nolan squealed. He snuggled against Mooshum's flannel shirt and breathed in its smoky wood smell. They rocked back and forth. Finally, Mooshum spoke. "Know what happened after I was born?" Nolan shook his head. My soft baby bones were full of music. Whenever I heard a fiddle on the radio, I wanted to dance. I'd cry and cry until my mare picked me up and danced a jig. Then I was happy again. Mooshum sniffed the air. "Ahoy, Nooshishum! The bannoc's gonna burn!" Mooshum quickly opened the creaking oven door. Through a blast of heat, Nolan saw the golden-brown bannock. Just perfect. Mooshum picked up the bannock. "Ow! Ow! Kishitiwa!" he hollered, juggling the hot bread and hopping to the table. Nolan giggled. "Is that the bannock jig, Mooshum? Hey, I just invented a new fancy step." Nolan broke off a steaming chunk of bannock, dipped it in Roger's golden syrup, and stuffed it into his mouth. Mooshum bit into another piece. Almost as good as Kukum used to make. "What happened next?" Nolan asked between bites. "Pretty soon I could walk by myself," remembered Mooshum. "Whenever my mare heard jigging music on the radio, she held me so I could balance my little moccasins on her shoes. I soaked up the rhythm from her tapping feet." Nolan asked, "Is it too late to get dancing in my bones?" Mooshum's eyes twinkled. "You're my grandson, aren't you? You just gotta learn the steps. We need music to get our bones moving. Here's a good CD. John Arcand. He's the best Métis fiddler around." An easy rhythm filled the air and Mooshum's feet started moving. "Stand on my feet, Nooshishum, and we'll dance together." Nolan wrapped his arms around Mooshum's waist and held tight. He could feel Mooshum's tapping feet, his panting breath, and his pounding heart. "Here's the Chi gallop, one foot in front of the other. Right, left, right, left, step, step, step." Nolan tried to copy, but his feet got all tangled up. "This is too hard," he hollered. Mooshum turned off the music. "You can do it. Stand behind me." He danced in slow motion, leading with the right foot. Nolan copied. Mooshum repeated, leading with the left foot. He stopped and watched Nolan dance alone. "Good work, my boy. Only one thing missing." Mooshum pulled his sash from the coat hook and wrapped it around Nolan's waist. "This will help your feet go faster." "Look, Mooshum, your sash is making my feet fly." Mooshum joined in. He showed Nolan the cross step and the bunny step. Nolan caught on without missing a beat. When John Arcand burst into the rollicking rhythm of the Red River Jig, Nolan was ready. He showed off 3 fancy steps while Mooshum hooted and clapped. Suddenly, Mooshum exclaimed, "Nooshishum, look at the time. We gotta get going." It's a long drive and we don't want to be late for New Year's dinner." Pulling on his boots, Nolan grinned. "I can't wait to show my mum." "Soon you'll be the best jigger in the North," Moosham said proudly. "Not for a long time, Moosham. You're the best jigger in the North, and the best grandpa, too." The end.